talk about getting totally dissed. The Pac-12 released its all-conference football team. Not a single Wildcat, including one-time Heisman candidate Khalil Tate, made the first or second team. How much more pathetic can the Pac-12 get? Sean Miller's been talkative lately, but it's not the media he's throwing shade at. Did his rant against his own players light a fire under their you-know-what? Shake, rattle, and roar while the mysterious booms heard from Tucson to Wilcox gave rise to conspiracy theories. The aliens are coming. These stories and more next on the 520. Welcome to the 520. I'm Steve Nunez.
I'm Marty Mata the Fourth. Thanks for joining us.
We'll get more to the Arizona matchup against the Purdue Boilermakers in the Foster Farms Bowl, but man, we've got some news that is making us boil over a little bit, right?
They're changing the mascot to the Arizona Ugly Ducklings. That's what they're calling
All right, well, check this out. The Arizona Wildcats led the Pac-12 in 3 big-time categories, including scoring, total offense, and rushing offense. You think a player named Khalil Tate, a one-time Heisman Trophy candidate, would at least make first or second team honors, right? Well, after all, Tate was named Pac-12 Player of the Week 4 times. But how pathetic is this? Tate and 5 other Wildcats were totally dissed and left off the first and second all-conference teams. Instead, Tate, running back Nick Wilson, return specialist Sean Brown, offensive lineman Jacob Alsadek, and Nathan Aldridge, and linebacker Colin Schooler, all made honorable mention. That's it. Not first team, not second team,
the
honorable
Ugly
mention.
Ducklings of Arizona.
I can see 5 of the players, but Khalil Tate, that is, to me, absolutely ridiculous.
Well, look at the list. First team, all Pac-12. Sam Darnold, second team, Josh Rosen of UCLA. If you throw it out there just like they put it, is Khalil Tate better than Sam Darnold?
Are you really going to ask that question? Because I believe Khalil Tate is the best quarterback in the Pac-12, period.
Where one lacks, the other excels. It's a scale itself. But I primarily think that if they were to go head-to-head in a quarterback battle, not like they did in their matchup, but if they were to go head-to-head, I think Khalil Tate has a little more room to grow than Sam Darnold does.
Yeah, but I only think Sam Darnold is ranked higher than Khalil Tate because he's a better prospect for the NFL. If we're talking college football, Khalil Tate is by far better than Sam Darnold. On top of that, look at USC. They have the players to support Sam. Khalil Tate doesn't. I mean, he's working around, he's only a sophomore, working around a lot of freshmen who are learning the game. But 1,300 yards in 7.5 games really this year. If you think about it, and he was able to accomplish all of that, it's ridiculous that the Pac-12, once again, the idiots of the world would not name Khalil Tate on the first team or second team. At least second team, if anything.
I also think, too, what they're focusing on is that Khalil Tate won a lot of games for them. I also think Khalil Tate might have lost a few games for them as well. Sam Darnold, on the other hand, I think he perfected his craft the best he could.
I still think you can't argue with the fact that he led the Pac-12 4 times Player of the Week and was a Heisman candidate for much of the season.
Definitely.
Absolutely ridiculous to hear that news today. Well, the Arizona Wildcats, there's one honor they should be proud of. Hitting pay dirt on Selection Bowl Sunday, the Wildcats wheeled and dealed, held off offers from lesser bowls like Las Vegas and the Sun Bowl, and then put themselves in a position to accept an invite to the Foster Farms Bowl. The 7-5 Wildcats will face the 6-6 Purdue Boilermakers in Santa Clara, California. The game will kick off at Levi Stadium on Wednesday, December 27th at 6:30 p.m. The Foster Farms Bowl passed up higher-ranked Pac-12 teams in ASU and Oregon, so there you have it. 2 other highly ranked teams passed up, but make no mistake about it, as we were just talking about, it's all about selling the nation's eyes to quarterback Khalil Tate. The sophomore sensation is a big-name draw. The NCAA and its Foster Farms sponsor needs to drive up TV ratings and game day ticket sales. Wildcats and Boilermakers have had turnaround seasons to become bowl eligible. Both teams, can you believe it, were 3-9 last year, and here they are facing off in the Foster Farms Bowl.
I think the Cats can take this one. The Cats are going to beat themselves. The Purdue Boilermakers are not going to beat the Cats if it ends up being in their favor.
But here's what concerns me. Again, we've been talking about this, the big thighs. Purdue Boilermakers remind me of that, of the BYUs of the world, the Stanfords of the world, and they just run it down your throat. They have the big thighs that can stop the Khalil Tates of the world on defense, but then on offense, they just seem to run right down that hole and stuff it down your throat.
And it's obvious that the Boilermakers win off of the opposing team's mistakes and not their success. So I think that the Cats, they got to stay away from their man coverage, keep it zone, keep everything in front of them, including the run game, because the defense takes 2 to 3 drives to recover every single time the running back breaks it off for 20. So they got to keep everything in front of them and take advantage of negative plays when they can.
Well, here's one stat I saw today that I was like, yes. The Cats do have a chance because the Boilermakers lost against Louisville, and we know that Lamar Jackson, last year's Heisman Trophy candidate, is exactly like Khalil Tate, not as good of a runner, but he dropped like 140 yards of rushing on Purdue. I'm thinking Khalil Tate could have a big game against Purdue.
And what the offense can't do, what the defense can't do is get behind. The offense clearly has not been able to pick up the slack where the defense is kind of lackluster on everything. So I think what it's going to come down to is it's good team football, take advantage of good opportunities when they can.
Quick, what's the score?
I would say Arizona 42, Purdue Boilermakers 38.
I'll say 45-28. I'm going to go for the big win. Come on, let's go for it, Cats. Well, Tucson is also hosting its own bowl game. Bring on the Aggies. New Mexico State and Utah State will battle it out in the Nova Home Loans Aggies Zona Bowl. Well, the game will be played on Friday, December 29th at Arizona Stadium, which seats 55,675 fans, right? Well, that kickoff is at 3:30 p.m. New Mexico State last played in a bowl game 57 years ago. Artie, that was way before your time. The Aggies beat the Aggies of Utah State 20-13 in the 1960 Sun Bowl, but can this matchup between two old rivalries really pack the house at Arizona Stadium? 520 talked to Nova Home Loans President and CEO John Volpe, founder of the Arizona Bowl game, on trying to get Wildcat fans to buy into this game.
I'm excited because, you got New Mexico State 4 hours, drive from here. They're going to turn out a lot of fans. We're going to have Utah State. They're huge at bringing fans into games too. So it should be, we're hoping for a sold-out game because this is the first and only bowl game where 100% of the net proceeds go back to local charities. And if we can sell this game out, if we can get the entire support of the Tucson community to come out and make this a huge event for us, we can write $1 million check back to local charities.
And speaking of gaining local support from the local community, Arizona football could barely average just over 40,000 fans this year with a winning record and with the potential at one point Heisman Trophy winner. How do you sell the community to New Mexico State and Utah State, teams that they have no interest or investment in?
So it's going to be a combination. We have to get them to bring fans, right? But we also have to get Tucson to understand that this is just more about watching a football game. This is about giving Tucson a huge economic boost. Last year, this bowl game contributed $21 million back to the local community businesses, and then we were able to write a check for over $200,000, right, to local charities. So, that's what the Tucson community needs to look at this bowl game. It's a great game. It's going to be an exciting game, but it's also giving back to our local community.
And we should mention that this is the only bowl in the country of all 40 games that all proceeds goes back to charity, correct?
That's exactly right. The first and only bowl game where 100% of the net proceeds go back to local charities.
All right, Artie, tell me something about this matchup between New Mexico State and Utah State that's going to make me jump off my seat right now.
Well, if they're trying to
sell it,
if they're trying to sell it, you're not going to sell the average football fan by telling them to donate charity. That's just the sad fact about it. But ultimately, these are lackluster teams, but they have a sort of undisclosed rivalry like we were talking about before. So there's going to be a big shootout. There's going to be a lot of chippy plays. I myself am going to go check out the game. Minus that all aside, it should be a good football game.
Well, I'm going to be there in this hope that New Mexico State fans, just 4 hours away from Tucson, drive up here to support this bowl game and support, really, their team.
Of course, of course.
All right, well, just as quick as ASU fired Todd Graham and paid him $12 million to skip out of town, the school was almost just as quick to hire Herm Edwards as its new head football coach. Well, some questioned the process, but athletic director Ray Anderson refused to name names and identify other candidates. Well, it turns out Herm is a buddy hire. Him and Anderson are close friends. Herm hasn't coached in a decade as an NFL coach with the Kansas City Chiefs and New York Jets. He had a losing record, 56 wins and 78 losses. He last coached Artie in college as a defensive coach at San Jose State in 1989. But you think before they introduce the guy, they tell him, hey, yo, Arizona State's mascot is the Sun Devils, right?
Coach Rubino, Devil's Digest.
Devil's Digest, huh?
Yes, sir.
Where you located, my man?
Right here in Tempe.
Okay, Devil's Digest, okay. I'm Catholic now, I'm a Christian. Watch out them devils.
Man, he played that off good. That was ridiculous.
It was. I think what we should be concerned about primarily, the last time Herm Edwards was on the field was in 2008. His quarterback was Brody Croyle. Can Herm Edwards coach a spread personnel? The ASU is a spread team.
All he had to do was look around and see the ASU logo and just be able to say, hey,
it's clear.
Sun Devils.
He's a buddy
Sun Devil
hire.
Digest.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. But I really don't think, I think this is a bust. It's a terrible hire, especially when you're paying off Todd Graham $12 million. Then you're going to bring in Herm Edwards and pay him another maybe $15, $20 million. That's just unbelievable and a big waste of money because the guy has no college experience head coaching. He's not going to be able to recruit, especially not against the Pac-12. And ASU is not going to be able to compete with the Joneses anyway.
And what we're worried about, too, is what's going to happen to Bill Napier. He called nearly 80% of the plays for ASU. What's his role going to look like this year with Herm Edwards?
All right, big bust for ASU. Good for U of A. Well, will Herm turn out to be a good hire? We talked about that right now. He's not going to be, so we'll move on. Well, last week, Arizona basketball coach Sean Miller showed a different side of himself, the Chatty Betty side we've never seen before. Shockingly, didn't single out the media. Miller went on a tirade calling out his own players, chastising them for waiting or wanting to play to make it on SportsCenter rather than play disciplined defense. Well, here's part of his diatribe.
I think our effort's terrible. Disappointed that you know, it's just kind of watching our team where we're at. I don't remember, we've had our moments over the last 6, 7 years.
Miller calling out his players light a fire under their you-know-what. At halftime, the Wildcats trailed UNLV by 11, but the pieces just didn't seem to fit. The Cats lacked confidence. They still couldn't stop dribble penetration. The running Rebels were dropping shots at a rate of above 50%. And then all of a sudden, a light bulb turned on with about 10 minutes left in the game. DeAndre Ayton and Alonzo Trier started to play defense, and the Cats stormed back to win in overtime 91-88. Now, I've been extremely critical of Sean Miller. Should I eat some crow?
Of course.
Should I spit
for
out
the
some crow
first
feathers?
time in a long time, I agree with Sean Miller.
I don't. It took the team 30 minutes to get a fire lit under their you-know-what. But I just think they finally learned to play defense, had a few steals, made a few easy buckets, and realized, you know what? Wow, maybe I should play defense. I don't think it's anything so much that Sean Miller said that was just so groundbreaking and earth-shattering.
And to say the least, you can tell he's worried about the kids as a whole. You can tell he's worried about winning basketball games, and that's, that sounds a little cliche, but Arizona signed a bunch of superstars straight out of high school already. So it's good to see that he's focused on diluting these kids to play Arizona basketball.
All right, let's go ahead and show you the upcoming games for Arizona. Coming up on Saturday, December 9th, they're going to play Alabama. Alabama, a tough matchup for Arizona. And then on December 30th, they open it up against dreadful ASU. Unbelievable that ASU is ranked higher than Arizona at this point. So that's going to be a couple of good games we're going to have to check out in the month of December. All right, let's jump right into Do We Care? After all, we're not just a sports show. We break down community issues, big and small. So let me get started. All right. Despite loud, mysterious booms that rattled homes and buildings from Tucson to Wilcox, and no immediate explanation for the frightening sound waves, conspiracy theories began to take on life, with some whispering, the aliens are coming. But it turns out the booms came from fighter jets flying out of Luke Air Force Base up in Phoenix. Do we care?
Do I care? Obviously not. But it's not surprising to see. I mean, Arizona, heavily Hispanic community, heavily Hispanic demographic. And I mean, you think back to when your Nana would shut the house down because she thought she saw the Virgen de Guadalupe like in the screen door.
The Virgen in the tortilla.
Yeah, and in her coffee cream, you know what I mean? So like, it doesn't surprise me that Tucson and Phoenix just immediately jumped to extraterrestrial conclusions.
I'm not surprised because I took some calls from people who were, did you see that flash? No one saw a flash.
Yeah.
We heard a boom and a couple of booms. But look, this state has a former governor who claims he saw UFOs hovering over Phoenix. So my disappointment is that when the media picked up on this story, a sonic boom went from Tucson to Phoenix throughout the media. The Luke Air Force Base should have known about this. They should have just quashed it, gotten everyone's fears turned down a bit, you know, and just said, hey, you know what? It wasn't aliens.
Seems pretty selfish on their part. You gotta admit. You gotta
All right.
admit. And up next, Arizona is considering a law to make it legal for motorcyclists to pass vehicles in the same lane and drive between lanes of traffic. The maneuver is called splitting lanes. Do we care?
Well, you ride a motorcycle.
Yeah.
How does splitting lanes work? I mean, what exactly is this?
So, in a nutshell, with parked and traffic going the same way, the dotted line essentially turns into a third lane of traffic for motorcyclists, so they could split between you while you're parked. And even if two cars are going at the same speed, at the same distance, motorcyclists can pass directly in between them.
So if I'm switching lanes and I hit a motorcyclist, it's kind of like my fault then.
In the eyes of the state, yes, it would be your fault if you injured a motorcyclist.
This really reminds me of the suicide lane Tucson used to have on Speedway Grant, when we used the middle lane, the turning lane to head in one direction during morning rush hour, and then the other direction in afternoon rush hour. And there were always near head-on collisions or somebody doing something stupid and trying to turn into a vehicle that was coming towards them. I can see this law just doing exactly that. Somebody just switching lanes and hitting some yahoo speeding past and doing a papa wheelie and being immature and just causing all kinds of traffic problems, period.
Exactly. And if the inspiration was from California, California has this law in place, then they also need to instill that, because right now the law is just you need to cover your eyes. You need to ensure helmet, denim on the pants, cover all your joints, gloves required, all of that, because I mean, I myself and my fellow motorcyclist colleagues are already doing 90 down cold with no remorse.
So you go down the middle, you pass cars like that?
Of course I don't. Because,
don't drive next to me if you
yeah, I mean, I'm not going to do that, but I know a handful of people that are going to.
Hey, but there is a Phoenix lawmaker who says, you know what? This will help increase safety and, more importantly, speed up traffic.
And that's a load of garbage. Yeah. Just if 10 motorcyclists are doing this at a time, bumper to bumper traffic, it's not going to do a darn thing.
But we do want motorcyclists to be safe.
At the least.
Well, Governor Doug Ducey is throwing a hissy fit, slamming a study that ranks Arizona last in the nation in recovery from a decade of chopping and slashing education budgets. Ducey calls the study a left-wing job. He wants credit for increasing cash he spent on schools since he's become governor. Do we care?
I personally am just outright tired. It's irritating to see these politicians pointing fingers and then wanting credit for the work that they've done. I mean, at this point, we're just rewarding fish for swimming. You got to admit. And these guys want pats on the president. To guys like Doug Ducey, they want pats on the back. They want high fives. Just narcissistic characteristics that they have to begin with. That all they want is the credit. When at the end of the day, this is what we hired them to do.
Do you want proof on why Arizona really ranks last in education? Because Ducey can't even add up the math. I mean, the guy is wrong flat out. I have to say, the left is right on this one. Doug Ducey wanting to take credit when Arizona had to pass a half-cent sales tax to fund education. He doesn't deserve credit. We, the taxpayer, deserve credit.
So it was from the left wing then. So he's right, to say the least. To say the least. Oh man. Residents near North 4th Avenue are outraged. A developer wants to knock down historic homes and build a high-rise for students. The developer Peak Campus met with residents to pitch its development, but the meeting got heated and residents left feeling the project was a done deal and they really didn't have any say in it anyways. Do you care?
Better believe we care. Another sweetheart deal for a developer in this city. Look, we saw what happened when historic homes were knocked down near the Tucson Convention Center to make way for the Tucson Convention Center. Really wiped out Barrio Viejo. What happened next? Downtown became a ghost town. And then we had to bring in Rio Nuevo, raise taxes, start a new fund to bring in and provide more sweet deals for developers to get to the point where we're at now, 40 years later. Ridiculous. I think developers should, if they're going to develop there, they better sure darn well provide street maintenance and lights, period.
To say the least. And what's so surprising to me is that the city's unique selling point, and they use it for their own benefit, is the Hispanic culture. It's a melting pot of Hispanic culture. I mean, you have the sixth freeway bridge, you have the paintings, the murals, the statues, the everything, and they're so quick, they're so trigger happy to sell out to these developers when that's all it's doing is diluting the Hispanic culture of the city that they're selling.
Well, what gets me mad is, once again, we have a clear view of the Catalinas. A 14-foot riser building should not go in that area to block our views. Not in my neighborhood.
It's obvious that this is more of a business plan than it is all they're trying to do is staple student housing onto it.
They can't even fill apartments downtown.
And that's not an excuse for tearing those places down.
Well, immigrants' rights activists are calling the fatal shooting of an immigrant a murder. They're obviously disputing the Border Patrol's claim the shooting was justified, claiming the man traveling with a group of Guatemalans in a rugged and remote area west of Tucson pulled the agent's gun from his holster. The immigrant's actions then forced the second agent to shoot and kill him. Do we care?
Hey, and that's what's so bad about it. Just like I was talking in the previous segment, just because this man was stapled as an immigrant, it's immediately a bad thing. If these were two average Joe Schmoes, of course it wouldn't be such a heavily debated topic, but because it's got to be up to the citizens themselves to decide how they feel on this issue, because pro-immigration, anti-immigration, they're obviously going to take this thing on both sides of the spectrum. It could be nothing but bad things for the immigration community again.
Well, look, on one hand, you want to give agents the benefit of the doubt. They're carrying a badge and a gun, and they should be honest. But we do know that there's been incidents involving agents where they claim the voiceless, who are the immigrants, did this, this, and this, and then we find out, like the incident in Nogales, where the kid was allegedly throwing rocks at the agent. They found him on the other side of the border in Nogales, Sonora, with 10 bullet holes, but he was on the other side, and it turns out the agent shot through the fence. So I can see where they're coming from, but it's just one of those situations where, look, if you're pro-immigrant, you're going to defend the immigrants. If you're not, you're gonna condemn them and side with the Border Patrol agents no matter what.
Exactly. I couldn't say it better myself. That's just, it's pitiful, honestly.
All right. You've heard the phrase, oh no you didn't. Well, here at the 520, we're not afraid to tell it like it is with, oh yes we did. Well, I'll go ahead and get started on this one, Artie. We'll flip the switch, and here's why. Sports Illustrated split its Sports Person of the Year award, crowning two Houston pro athletes, Houston Astro Jose Altuve and the Texans J.J. Watt. Altuve, 5'6", stood tall and became the city's inspiration following the devastation left behind by Hurricane Harvey. While Altuve led the Astros to their first World Series title, he said he owed it to Houston and wanted to help the city with the recovery. Watt became the face of the hurricane relief effort. He single-handedly raised $37 million to help the victims. SI said nothing Watt does on the field will ever compare to what he did off the field for Houston. Got to give him props for that one.
You have to. I like how you switched it up. It's definitely something meaningful to everybody in the country.
All right.
To say the least. And this past Sunday, they brought us, the New England Patriots brought us a 23-3 win over the Bills, and it also brought us a flagrant late hit from former Arizona tight end Rob Gronkowski. Gronk delivered an unnecessary blow that put Tre'Davious White into concussion protocol. He was also suspended 1 game, and what makes this story as flagrant as the events themselves is Gronk made an appeal to the league on this suspension. Of course, it was upheld, and what makes it even worse is that Larry Fitzgerald on Westwood One Radio was quoted with saying, "I don't particularly like the suspension. I don't like when the actions of one player affects his team." I'm honestly thinking, isn't that the point?
Well, I think Gronk getting 1 game suspension is too little. But listening to Talk Sports Radio, man, you start to see that it becomes a black-white issue. Black players only get 1 game suspension when they do something, minor. White players like Gronk get 1 game when they do something that could have hurt a player and really debilitated him because he hit him pretty hard in the back of the neck, and this is a big guy. Gronk is no little scrawny dude.
What's worse is that Roger Goodell stapled the Ezekiel Elliott suspension on sending a message to trickle down to the average NFL player. Robert Gronkowski is not the average NFL player, and to say the least, he could have very easily sent a message to the rest of the NFL that sportsmanship is just as important as it was back in high school.
Well, he's a Wildcat, and he should have learned good sportsmanship, right? Well, that does it for this week's 520. As you know, our goal is to tell it like it is because it's all about giving voice to opinions, even if you don't agree. I'm Steve Nunez.
I'm Marty Mata IV. Thanks for joining us.